This has become one of my favorite pizzas to make at home. Bacon, mushrooms, pine nuts, calabrian chilies, and fresh tarragon on a canvas of 3 cheeses. It's gourmet, it's complex, and it's surprisingly easy to make. So we get started the day before with a pizza dough. I love this make-ahead dough because it not only saves me time the day of, but it's easier to make. I start with some dry active yeast, to which I add water between 105 and 110 degrees, a pinch of sugar to feed the yeast, and wait 5 minutes. Once the yeast is foamy and you know it's alive, add bread flour, olive oil, and salt and give it a good stir. I like to use a rubber spatula because it's easier to scrape the bowl. I start with half the flour until I get a smooth paste, then I add the rest of the flour in sections until my dough is the desired consistency, which at this stage is still quite sticky. Then dump it onto the countertop onto some flour and mix it with your hands. I do this by hand because I don't own a stand mixer, and this way I can tell what consistency my dough is. You want your dough to be moist, elastic, and sticky, but not so sticky that it's hard to get off the countertop or your hands. Don't stress too much over the consistency of your dough. This is the sort of thing that comes with practice. Also, note that I'm not exactly kneading the dough per se, I'm just making sure it comes together in a cohesive, elastic, slightly sticky mass. Now what I'm doing here is coating the dough ball in some flour so I can put it in a plastic bag in the fridge overnight to ferment. This is why you don't really need to knead this dough. The overnight chill will do a lot of that work for you. I like to leave plenty of air in the bag for the dough to rise, twist it, turn it upside down, and stick it on a flat shelf of the fridge, if you can find space for it. Now it's the next day and I'm going outside to our mushroom patch. These homegrown wine cap mushrooms are the origin of this pizza. I had a bumper crop one day, so I combined them with other ingredients I had on hand, and this pizza was born. Since I only had a few small mushrooms that day, here's some earlier footage of larger wine cap mushrooms I've harvested. About an hour before you want to eat the pizza, heat a pizza stone in your oven as hot as it will go and take out the dough and turn onto a sheet of parchment that's bigger than your pizza stone. Here I'm just stretching it out a little, but I'm not forming it. Then prep the bacon. I like to dice and render it in a skillet on medium-low until most of the fat has rendered out. Some globs of unrendered fat is fine, they will cook further in the oven, but you don't want it to be floppy or half-cooked. Drain on paper towels for later. For the sauce, I like to do an American chain pizzeria style of pizza sauce. Salt, garlic powder, onion powder, red pepper flakes, Italian seasoning, and olive oil. I mix until homogeneous, then I dilute it with water until it's the desired consistency. You want the sauce to be thick but easily spreadable, and I always just do this by feel. Now it's time to form the crust. I find it's best to press and stretch rather than roll, and this will be easier if you do not put too much flour in your dough. My dough was so sticky here though that it was sticking to the parchment, so I unstuck it, and in doing so, it stretched out just about right. Coax the dough into a round shape, making sure it's not bigger than your pizza stone. If some areas are too thin, perform surgery like I am here. Make sure you leave a thicker lip of dough around the edges. Then cover in a thin layer of sauce. Remember, this stuff is concentrated, so you don't need much. Then for the cheese, I like to do a mozzarella-based blend. I'm starting with mozzarella and some old Jack cheese that I wanted to get rid of. And here is a very special cheese, Beecher's Flagship. It's similar to a white cheddar if you can't find it where you live. It's nice and strong and tangy. The next layer is bacon, so it won't burn, followed by pine nuts for the same reason. Also, the cheese will help hold these little nuts in place while they cook. And now the mushrooms. If you don't grow your own wine cap mushrooms, use whatever mushrooms you'd like. Portobello or oyster mushrooms would be my top picks for this pizza, but really whatever you like is fine. Slice them thin so they won't be all watery and rubbery when they cook. Then calabrian chilies. These add nice spicy and fruity pops of flavor to the pizza, but go ahead and use fresh Fresno chilies if you can't find these. They are very expensive. Then drizzle with olive oil, particularly around the edges, and slide the pizza into your hot oven. Since I don't have a pizza peel and I suck at that technique anyway, what I do is I move the rack out slightly, then I place the edge of my cutting board on the stone and use the parchment paper to slide the pizza onto it. I find this is consistently the easiest and safest way to transfer a big floppy raw pizza onto a dangerously hot stone. Bake the pizza for 4 minutes while you tell your kitty how cute she is.
Happy Peter.
4 minutes later, I like to use a metal spatula to prop the pizza up and slide the parchment out. This will help the crust brown better. The pizza is not done at this point and needs another 4 to 6 minutes. 6 minutes later, or 10 minutes total time in the oven, the pizza is more or less done here. Nice browning on the bottom, but I like to turn on the broiler and open the oven door to let it broil for an additional minute or two. Remove the pizza with the same cutting board technique as before. Sorry, I didn't get footage of this because my husband was too busy to film it. Then top with fresh tarragon or basil if that's what you can find, and serve piping hot. Not only does this pizza use amazing ingredients, it's greater than the sum of its parts. It's salty, smoky, tangy, earthy, buttery, and slightly sweet from the chilies, and that fresh pop of tarragon really completes the experience. The crust is also pillowy and chewy, and we achieved that without a stand mixer and without kneading. Anyway, this pizza is amazing. I have the written recipe on my Patreon, and I really do hope you try it. Bye!